Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you are joining us from. Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade, powered by the Global Magazine, the Global Alliances, proudly welcomes you all to this exclusive interview series in connection with World MSME Day 2022. In this series of interviews, we'll be looking at global perspectives of coordinated efforts to the post-pandemic economic recovery of MSMEs. I'm Aparna G. Kumar, the Global Co-Chairperson of GCPAT and your host for the show. Every year on June 27th, Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Day or MSME Day is celebrated to honor their role in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Small and medium-sized enterprises or SMEs account for up to 90% of businesses, 60 to 70% of employment, and they account for half of global GDP according to the United Nations. The Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade is an organization based in India, South Africa, US, UK and UAE with board and council member representation across the world. We have been celebrating World MSME Day since 2018. And this year, we are celebrating this day with global perspectives from various leaders, departments, ministries, chambers of commerce, and international organizations. We believe that global perspectives have a significant role to play in paving the way for the future. Today, we have with us Mr. Sanjeev Chawla, who is working as a director in the MSME Development Institute, Karnal, which is a field office of the Ministry of MSME. The main mandate of this office is the implementation of the schemes and programs of the Ministry of MSME for the development and promotion of MSMEs in the state of Haryana, except for Faridabad. He possesses 27 plus years of experience in MSME development in various domains like cluster development, implementation of UNIDO's industrial development programs, policy formulation for MSME development, extension services, techno-managerial consultancy to MSMEs, implementation of ISO 9000, market development, public procurement policy, project implementation, procurement, setting up and managing technology centers. He has trained industry stakeholders and officials on issues related to MSME development. He implemented at rupees 2200 crore World Bank assisted project for setting up 15 new technology centers. His present focus is on the capacity building of MSMEs for various cost-cutting initiatives and competitiveness. Welcome, Mr. Sanjeev Chawla, to our show. Thanks for joining us today. I know that you are joining us from Seattle. Still, thank you so much for joining us today in this very important discussion on MSMEs.
Thank you, Aparna ji, for your kind words. Yes, MSMEs are facing a lot of challenges and they have peculiar characteristics all over the world, but they provide a lot of employment. They can solve our supply chain issues. They are quality conscious. So they are very important part of economies all over the world. So please, I'm very excited on this World MSME Day and congratulations on this day. And you are also welcome on this.
Thank you so much. And we know that you are the director of MSME Development Institute. And for our global viewers to understand better, can you please tell us in brief about your role as a director of MSME DI? And as such an experienced officer, what have been your experience with MSMEs in India before COVID?
The Ministry of MSME, Government of India has field offices across the country, which are called MSME Development Institute. These were set up in 1954 as a recommendation of the 4 committee, which recommended that there are entrepreneurs on one side, there is requirement on the other side, but entrepreneurs do not know what to do. So to facilitate the entrepreneurship in the country, so this organization was conceived and set up way back in 1954. Over the years, now entrepreneurs have become knowledgeable and the challenges have increased. Now, a lot of funds are required, a lot of technology is required. The industry has to be global, value chain and all that. So the role is now becoming more challenging for MSME development institutes. So we provide knowledge to our entrepreneurs these days, what to do, how to source funding, equity is a better route, or they should go for debt, or where from they can get new technologies. So these are the main aspects of our mandate in the field office.
And 3 years into the pandemic, we all know that the whole world is facing the challenges of COVID-19, and MSMEs are among those that have been hit hardest by the crisis. And as the director of MSME Development Institute, how do you think has been the recovery of MSME sector so far during and post-COVID?
First of all, I would like to tell that COVID is still not over. It's still there. Anyway, any effects are still there, but MSME, a resilient sector, is trying to fight it out. Indian MSME sector produces more than 6,000 products and renders so many services. The COVID had effect, differential effect. It didn't have, affected all the sectors equally. It has affected the industry, MSME per se, and in the initial days of COVID-19, the industry was totally baffled. A lot of units were shut down. Some industries grew very well. Healthcare industry grew very well. Internet-based services, e-commerce. These are some sectors which were sustaining themselves. But some industry suffered a lot. Apparel industry, footwear industry, the white goods industry. So there was total halt. And then what happened? The inventories were lying as it is. The labor had vanished. The capital was totally locked in raw materials, finished products. There was a lot of problem of liquidity. So now, after these two strong waves of COVID-19, the industry is now readjusting. I won't say it's totally recovering, it's readjusting. If we take GST collections as an indicator, GST collections have gone, all-time high. But this indicator is not alone sufficient to define whether industry has totally recovered or not, because GST collections are more because of increased use of e-commerce, very much increase in the cost of inputs. Raw material rates have increased 1.5 times for most of the items. Labor rates have increased. Still, industries now, some sectors have come to the pre-COVID level, like tourism, aviation, which was very badly hit, is now coming very close to pre-COVID levels. But some industries like event management, it's still not recovered properly. Now meetings have been redefined, virtual meetings are taking place. We have, even various functions, trade fairs, suppose, marriages, parties. So the essential things are now being recovering very, very fast, very good, but still some sectors are still suffering. I think it will take some more time, but COVID-19 has taught us so much. The realty sector is now again booming because people have realized the importance of big houses. The people are working from home, and now they think that a bigger or comfortable home is required for their functioning even. And more so, people have now realized that the money which was locked in various assets need to be utilized. So there is a lot of increase in some kind of spending also. And therefore, inflation is now increasing. The rate of interest are again increasing, which will again cause problem for MSMEs. So this whole, the process has been rejigged.
Policies, institutions, and regulations that provide a conducive environment for small enterprises can make a substantial contribution to building a self-reliant economy. What are the key highlights of policies and strategies for building a self-reliant economy in India as of now? And can this percolate down well to the micro enterprises, as majority of the MSMEs are micro units? Do you have any changes to suggest?
Policies are being changed in a big way in India. If we talk of Atmanirbhar program, like Government of India has brought production linked incentive in 14 sectors. So this is a very big change. Now we have one argument that this production linked incentives will benefit large sector only, but large sector alone cannot drive any sector. They have to be supported by MSMEs in the supply chain. And if I say that we will be having gigafactories which will manufacture lithium-ion battery, but they need hundreds of components which are required to be supplied by MSMEs in the value chain. So similarly, if you talk of electronics, white goods, or maybe textiles, technical textiles, so whatever the sector is, MSME is an integral part. So this is a very big initiative of Government of India for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Then India government has banned international tenders less than rupees 200 crore procurement. For all government procurement, tenders less than rupees 200 crore are not being published globally. We have been regulating imports from bordering countries. There are extensive orders for scrutinizing the imports from the neighboring country. FTA negotiations have been initiated with Europe. We have successful examples of FTA negotiations. Then we have been banning import of components for key systems of defense. So many important systems are now being assembled with the components manufactured in the country. Defense offset policy is also one of the initiative. Revised Apprenticeship Act, revamping of government e-marketplace, GEM, focusing on digitization like using UPIs like BHIM, promoting innovation ecosystems, startups, stand-up, skill mission, and focusing on infrastructure projects. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highway has constructed 37 kilometers of road per day. Ministry of MSME is also focusing on various initiatives, like they are launching a program called RAMP, which will be having effect on the policy issues of not only central government, all the some states also. Ministry of MSME is setting up 15 technology centers, new technology centers for skill enhancement. So a lot of initiatives are taking place. And if you say that, do they percolate to micro sector, the apprehension raised by you is quite legitimate, because sometimes micro sector keep a distance from such initiatives. So this challenge is very big for the government, because more than 99% sector is informal or micro sector, and we have a great challenge there. The institutions like MSME Development Institutes and other agencies are there to translate these programs to micro sector. Efforts are being done, and we hope Government of India will be successful in percolating the benefits to micro sector.
I think what you said gives a great hope for MSMEs overall. And MSMEs are the largest employers in many low-income countries, and yet their growth is often stifled by the restricted access to credit, equity, and payment services. Access to financial services in the sector can boost job creation, raise income, reduce vulnerability, and increase investments in the human capital. What, according to you, is the situation of the MSME financing instruments in India during and post-COVID-19?
The biggest initiative was taken, that emergency credit line, which was started for providing 20% and then 25% of the outstanding loans. This was to give ease of functioning of working capitals for MSMEs. This four times it has been relaxed, and now this is applicable till March 2023. So this was very big initiative of the government to provide emergency credit line, and Government of India was giving guarantee for this funding, and no additional documentation was required for this. However, the industry had different version on this. Industry wanted more cash in their hands than loan, but anyhow that was not feasible, and the government has supported this initiative. Up to 5 lakh crore rupees were given in this. Then government came up with a fund of funds called SelfReliant India Funds, which was supposed to provide venture capital kind of funding to MSMEs, because when they go to private equity firms, the expectations are quite high, that PE firms want a bigger chunk in the profits. But And to provide funding at a reasonable price, government introduced as Self-Reliant India funds, which will provide a funding up to 50,000 crore rupees to MSME sector. And then SIDBI came up with a lot of good schemes for funding, and some schemes were at even 5% of rate of interest during the COVID period. And then SIDBI's fund of for new units, Sthapna, and then credit guarantee scheme of Government of India, which is provided for loans up to rupees 2 crore, was also a good relief to MSME. These SIDBI schemes of Safe and Smile were quite handy during the COVID period. And this emergency credit line is still there for MSMEs, even as on date.
And how is the current scenario in terms of job creation in the MSME sector?
India has 500 million workforce, and there are around 1.2 crore people joining labor force every year. So that's a great challenge. So all the employment cannot be created by government. So that is a well-recognized fact, and the MSMEs have a great role, because the employment intensity of MSMEs is much more than large sector. Over a period of last 10 to 15 years, the manufacturing has been at constant 14-15% of GDP, but the service sector has increased considerably. And with the service sector contribution reaching up to 50% of GDP, so service sector has created a lot of job employment in the country. So if we see the data of NSSO, in the last year, the unemployment rate has been reduced to 4.2%, which was 6.8 or something in the previous years. So we can say with conviction that MSME sector, particularly service sector, has led to job creation quite effectively in the last few years. And still the challenge of creating 100 million jobs, which was thought upon in 2014, I think it looks little distant. For this, MSME sector, manufacturing sector, has to grow at a faster pace than it is growing at present. That is a challenge.
And what impact do public-private partnerships have on economic growth, according to you, and how are the leaders promoting PPPs?
You know, Government of India had been quite active in public-private partnerships right from 2005 onwards. You know, we have set up a special cell in Ministry of Finance, which deals with public-private partnerships. So, and there are so many sectors in which public-private partnership is allowed, right from roads to urban transport to infrastructure projects, international convention centers, modern storage, cold chains, education, health, and so many sectors. And viability gap funding is also being provided up to 40% for infrastructure projects under PPP mode. And then Government of India has set up India Infrastructure Project Development Fund also for this purpose. And there's another institutions called IIFCL. Then FDI has been promoted in so many sectors through automatic route. So if we take cognizance of all these initiatives, we can very well say that PPP is being promoted by leaders of this country.
As a result of the fourth industrial revolution, the economy is transitioning from one based on manufacturing to one based on knowledge, where new ideas and inventiveness are becoming increasingly important for long-term growth. Through trade and intellectual property rights, creative industries are becoming a driving force for entrepreneurship and economic growth. I know that you are now working on the skill development of MSMEs. What's your perspective on creative economy and how countries are working on streamlining this industry?
Yes, in the current phase, now we have to move to knowledge-based industries, and we cannot afford wastage of resources. That is the most important thing. And not only just industry 4.0, industry 5.0 will talk of appropriate use of resources. So the strategy which we should have for creative economic development of MSMEs, I think it should, again, I will impress upon effective single window. There had been, emphasis on single window, and some state governments have, state governments are most important in implementing the policy framework for MSMEs, because state governments have the mandate of handling industry. But still the single windows are not functioning properly. Single window means the MSMEs should get all the clearances as soon as possible. It's still not happening. There should be an easy exit plan for MSMEs. There should be incentive for value added and sunrise industry. If you look at the industrial perspective of US or South Korea or Taiwan, they are focusing only on value added products. They're not interested in run of the mill kind of industry. So we have to give incentives for value added products, the sunrise industry, which are the future of manufacturing. We have to provide design support to MSMEs. MSMEs are not capable to have the elaborate design infrastructure in their industry. Government has to provide this. Then resource sharing is also very much important. Some for this, common facility centers are very much important. And the biggest problem is that information asymmetry. MSMEs do not know what is happening technology wise. They caught up in some obsolete manufacturing processes, and then they become incompetitive. We have to provide better law and order situation for them, and then infrastructure has to be at the affordable cost. If you think of industry in Punjab or Haryana or Delhi, the land is at such exorbitant price that putting up industry is almost very difficult. Then the cost of funds is now again increasing. We were thinking that cost of funds will go down, but it's again increasing. Of course, we are happy that cost of utilities is decreasing with the increased use of solar power in the system. So these are the few areas on which we need to give more attention so that we are able to have a strategy for creative economy development of MSMEs across the country.
And COVID-19 was a wake-up call for all of us. So what advice would you like to give to MSMEs across the globe? What precautions should they be taking in case of any crisis in the future?
First problem is always that MSMEs should not be trapped in debt crisis. They should have cash. They should have some reserves with them, and so that they can be, so they are able to handle foreseen situations like COVID, because nobody predicted COVID, and it's really difficult to say that anybody can handle such kind of situation. But if we think that we need to be prepared for any eventuality, may it be COVID or any other such kind of catastrophe, they shouldn't fall into debt trap. What is a major difference between an MSME and a large company? Large company has equity. They raise equity from market. And for equity, they will pay dividend only when they earn something. But MSMEs, if they have raised loan, they will always be entitled. They're forced to give interest on that. And despite so many programs and schemes of various governments, MSMEs did not get any relief for the interest which they have paid during the COVID period. The MSMEs are paying tax when they earn profit, but during the COVID period, when they suffered losses, they have not got any compensation. So MSMEs have to be ready. Their cost of production should be less, or they should produce most economically, and their working capital management should be better. That means that they should not lock the working capital in machinery or infrastructure. They should reserve the working capital for working capital requirements only, because if they have cash, they can buy the products cheaper, their cost of production will be less, and they will be comfortable. And they should keep a tab on the developments, and the rest is in the hands of God only.
And before we end, would you like to add anything more as a closing remark?
Yes, we on 27th June, we in India aspire to reach a figure of 1 crore registration of Udyam registration. So that is our. So my advice or my request to MSMEs which are in informal sector, they should go for registration, and they need to have a consortia approach so that they can share the resources, because business or industry, it's a mathematics only. Until their cost of production is less, until their quality is better, until their rejections are less, they cannot be competitive. So to become competitive in domestic as well as global market, they have to produce the best products at affordable cost. So that is the mantra.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjeev Chawla, for your valuable input on this serious issue of MSMEs. As you said, the industry is going global, and this faces a huge challenge for MSMEs. The COVID is still there, and that's another challenge. And some sectors, as you said, are coming back to normal, to pre-COVID levels, but many are still to recover. And it's a huge thing that policies are being changed in India in a big way. And this gives a huge hope and opportunity for MSMEs. And government, as you said, has been supporting MSMEs during COVID and still continuing the support. And as you mentioned, the main thing MSMEs should take care is that they don't fall into debt in case of any other crisis, any future crisis which they may face. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that it is your vacation time, and let's hope this discussion is a small step towards creating a huge change, not just in India, but globally. Thank you once again, Mr. Sanjeev Chawla, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looking forward to working together in the future as well. And as we all know, MSMEs are the backbone of any economy, and they are badly hit during this pandemic. Let's come together and help SMEs recover and come back to normal. If you're an expert on MSMEs and you have an opinion to share, we would like to invite you to join us in the discussion. Please mail us at contact@gcpit.us. And if you're an MSME and have any questions to ask or concerns to express, please comment under this video and we will take it up with the experts. We are on a mission 100 million, a mission to touch the lives of 100 million entrepreneurs. If you would like to join us and be part of this game-changing mission, you can contact us through mail, as I mentioned, and you can find us on all social media as DCPIT Global. Let's together change the world brick by brick, and let us be the change we wish to see in the world, as Mahatma Gandhi said. See you all in our next session with another expert leader on MSMEs. Till then, this is Aparna G. Kumar signing off. Thank you once again, Mr. Sanjeev Chawla, for joining us. Bye-bye. Take care and have a great day.